Well, in our last devotional, at the end of it, I asked this question: do you have an unconditional love in your heart for everybody in the world? And that is a good question. Today, I want to begin this devotional by asking the same question in a different way. Is there anybody in your life, whether you know them, live with them, work with them, interact with them, know them from a distance, or don't even know them at all? You just know them from afar. Maybe you see them on television. Maybe you read about them in the newspaper, if anybody still reads the newspaper. But you don't know them, but you're familiar with them. You know about them. Is there anybody in your world who, when you think about them, you say to yourself, I can't stand that person? And the reason I bring that up today is because it seems like through the years, any time that I have ever preached a sermon on forgiveness, bitterness, holding a grudge, letting it go, walking in love and so on like that, it seems like that always strikes a nerve in any congregation that I've ever dealt with that with. And I'm not saying it strikes a nerve with every person listening, but it seems like those type of sermons, I seem to get more feedback from people saying, John, I needed that. That helped me. I'm really struggling with that. And let me say today, if you're struggling with what I'm talking about today, and that is loving people unconditionally and loving them like God loves them, maybe when I said, is there anybody in your world that you just can't stand, or that just the mention of their name turns your stomach, and you're listening to this devotional today, and you say, well, John, to be honest, yes, there is. Well, first of all, let me say to you, that proves that you're human, because we've all had that at one time or another in our life. The fact that you're listening to this devotional today, and if it bothers you that is true of you, that proves that you're a Christian. Because if somebody wasn't saved, they might say, I can't stand that person. I hate that person makes me sick. And they wouldn't even feel guilty about that. But if it bothers you that you're holding a grudge or having a bad feeling towards somebody else, I'm saying to you today, that's actually a good sign. You say, well, John, I'm glad it's a good sign, but what can I do about it? Well, what you can do about it is look at that person differently. And that's what I've been trying to say in these last few devotions. Look at that person as someone who's been made in the image of God. And also look at them as a test from God. In other words, some people are easy to love. People who are nice to you, good to you, bragging on you, giving you things, always encouraging you. Man, it's easy to love people like that. But if those were the only types of people in our lives, we never would have an opportunity to love people unconditionally. And so sometimes God allows there to be people in our lives who are maybe not so encouraging. Maybe they've hurt us. Maybe they've talked behind our backs. Maybe they've tried to hurt one of our family members. And that, to me, that's one of the hardest things to get over. If somebody has tried to hurt one of your family members, and so you hold on to that grudge, whether if they had just hurt you with something they did or said, it would be maybe easier for you just to get over it. But now it's like you're being protective of your own family, and so it's harder to let that go. But sometimes God lets these type things happen in our life to see if we will extend the same unconditional love to them that God extends to us when we're quite unlovely, and when we're sinful, and when we do things that we shouldn't do. So I guess what I'm saying, first of all, today, I'm saying several things. First of all, I'm saying there should not be anybody in your life that you hate. And when I say, is there anybody in your life that you just can't stand? You should answer, no, there's not. I love everybody. That's the first thing I'm saying. That's the standard. That's what God expects. The second thing I'm saying is, as we journey through life, sometimes we struggle with that. Just like every other standard God has, sometimes we struggle to live up to it. We sin, we fall short of God's standard. We need God's grace and help to live up to that standard. And so if you say, John, I'm struggling with somebody today, it proves you're human. The fact that it bothers you and that you want to love them proves that you're genuine. It proves that you're sincere. And I think it proves that you're saved if in your heart you say, I really don't want to struggle. I really want to love them. I really do. Well, the last thing is, how can you love a person who has hurt you in some way? And I want to stop it there for today, and we'll pick up there in our next devotional, and we'll talk about maybe one or two things we can do to help us get over the hurdle and extend unconditional love to that person, to have that true love in our hearts. And what I'm saying is, and the reason I said I think the fact that if it even bothers you, that demonstrates that you're saved, because if it bothers you, it demonstrates that there is a struggle going on between the spirit and the flesh. And remember this, if you weren't saved, you wouldn't be having a struggle with the spirit and the flesh, because you wouldn't have the spirit living in you. You would just have the flesh. But next time, I want us to pick up here and talk about how we can actually have a heart that is free of any of those feelings, negative feelings, angry feelings, hateful feelings, bitter feelings towards anybody else. Have a great day. Bye-bye.